How are you? How's your life going? These are questions we typically ask others. But why not consistently ask ourselves, how are you? Is everything okay? When we can assess the quality of our energy in each moment and honestly engage with it without wishing to hide or to excuse any energies that feel a bit out of place, that is when we connect to the true self, because the true self has been hiding underneath a bunch of baggage, self-created baggage. And the only one who's going to take away that baggage is you yourself. Therefore, if we're not consistently checking in with ourselves and treating ourselves like the most important project, then we can't possibly connect with the divine. To connect with the divine is to connect with the true self. There is no difference. And this is the most occulted truth in this matrix. After all, you and I have been told that the divine lies in the hands of some gods who are distant and perfected, or in some force that waits around for us to accept it into our loving arms. Accept yourself. Accept yourself. But what if I can't accept myself? Well, hey, if you don't accept yourself in this moment, in any capacity, that's a beautiful observation. We can check in with ourselves and realize, yeah, there's something I'm doing, there's something I'm eating, there's thought forms I'm entertaining, there's interactions I'm having that doesn't ultimately serve the state I wish to be in. Because it's ultimately about the state you wish to be in. We have all of these images of holy men and women. And these images, these representations, may not have any relevance to the state you wish to embody. You see, I wish to embody a state which is ever fluid, ever fresh, ever alive, and ever enchanting. But not because I'm attached to those qualities, but because I have realized that my heart, my true self, naturally pours out these qualities of freshness and aliveness and so on and so forth when the true self isn't hammered down by self-deception. We must check in with ourselves, always. It's not that difficult. It's not that complex. It is not academic in any sense. You see, transmutation occurs because we are honest with the quality of the energy we're existing in. It's not a recipe, transmutation, inner alchemy, going from lead to gold. I couldn't hand you a step-by-step manual as to how to become the true self and therefore channel the true divinity that's been hiding behind falsity. No. It's only the limiting which foolishly thinks that a step-by-step protocol can lead to anywhere but more bondage. It's all about simply knowing thyself. It is hilarious. The self has been so ignored in this matrix. This matrix has such emphasis on groups and identities within groups and hierarchies within groups and systems of thought. What about the self? Well, according to spirituality, that's a slippery slope depending on who you speak to. That's kind of a prideful, egotistical perspective to suggest that the self leads to salvation, the true self rather, unburdening the true self does lead to salvation. But this is blasphemy in the eyes of the common narrative here, which is why it should be apparent that this is true. Because of course, in such a land of lies, the most ignored truth would be the most potent truth. And we don't really see much self-care. We really don't. And I'm not talking about false positivity, like covering ourselves up by saying, I'm beautiful, I'm this, I'm that, when we deep down actually don't feel that way. So, the great work has nothing to do with summoning higher beings or getting it right. If you'd like to exit the cycle of birth and death, the truth must be felt and lived first from within. This isn't a pleasant truth to those who have wished to separate themselves from their inner space, which is so maddening. I mean, it is most schizophrenic to try and project our attention elsewhere. I mean, you are a self. You're in a body right now. You have thoughts, you have emotions, and all of this directs your experience. So it's nothing to poo-poo the self. Absolutely not. Every now and then, I'll take a dip into truther content, or even spiritual content, and I really don't care about the words that are spoken if the being speaking it is obviously looking unwell, right? Like looking unhealthy, or existing in some state where it's apparent like you could take better care of yourself. And you know what? We all could take better care of ourselves. And that is what we've been avoiding. If you can't show yourself that you can take care of yourself, and not just like for a few days or for a few weeks or something, like, I'm not speaking of momentary self-care. I'm speaking of eternal self-care, where we truly snap into this knowing that it is reverence towards oneself that ultimately creates reverence towards the all. But it all starts with your heart. So let us be honest. Let us check in with ourselves. And if something feels a bit icky or incomplete, then guess what? That can be transmuted simply through that observation. Free yourself. Don't just think about it. Free yourself. There are way too many beings thinking and talking about freeing themselves and not genuinely doing it. And the steps one takes to free oneself always boil down to practicality. What's practical? A lot of the times we may want to bite off more than we can chew. Okay, ignore the books, ignore the dogma, ignore the repetitious language and concepts that seem to glitter, okay? How about just start with assessing the quality of one's energy? You've got this, baby. You've got this. I know you do. But let's hold ourselves accountable. Take care.